A street child is somebody who spends majority of his or her time on the street, whether it is for working, relaxing, or spending time with their family. So there are three types of street children broadly categorized in India. One who stay with their families, one who have some amount of contact with their families, and the third category is those who have absolutely no contact with their families. So most of the street children, like any other developing country, in India too, have either run away from home, maybe they got lost in the huge city that Mumbai is. Maybe they are orphaned, or maybe they have disturbed family lives. It's because the parents are poor or alcoholic. There is physical or verbal violence in the family. There's been divorce. One of the parents has deserted or passed away. There is also another added factor that Mumbai is the location where most of our Bollywood films are made. So coming to act in films and coming to see their favorite film stars, that is one of the most popular reasons why younger children come to the city. The street children in our country are covered by the Juvenile Justice Act, which was last amended in 2015. It suggests two types of measures to take care of street children. One is institutional resort. One is institutionalization, which we would like to keep it as the last resort, as long only if there is no family member or relative or community member who's likely to support them. Non-institutional measures are adoption, sponsorship, and foster care. Can I have the next slide, please? So if you take a look, there are two types of institutions that we have in India. One is the government-run institution, and one is the NGO-run institution. Each of those institutions will give the child food, shelter, clothing, and very, very basic education and health care and vocational training. Like, but in the government institutions, every service that's provided is likely to be of a much lower quality because government budgets are rather limited. On the other hand, uh, NGOs will provide slightly better quality services, but they have a very small amount of children they can take in because their budgets are usually from individual sponsors and donations from the community. And they cannot be predicted beforehand. So they would like to provide better services for a fewer number of children rather than a utilitarian approach as government institutions have. Government institutions in general have very, very poor conditions in terms of hygiene, ventilation. Their staff also is very undertrained usually, and it's overworked. NGOs will have better conditions in their institutions and they will pay their staff better, but concerns of overwork and lack of training always remain because we in India also have a lot of non-professional workers working with children and families rather than people who have studied social work formally as either a diploma, bachelor's, or a master's degree. Another thing about the government institution is it always runs a closed institution. For example, once you enter, you cannot leave until the Child Welfare Committee, which is the committee comprising of 5 people, decides the child's case. The child cannot leave till then. On the other hand, NGOs are a lot more flexible and approachable for street children because they begin their intervention in the form of open shelters. For example, a lot of children will come to Mumbai via train. So most of the organizations that work with street children will have open shelters in all the three important railway stations in Mumbai, in the suburbs as well as in the heart of the city. This is so that they can intervene with the child as soon as possible, as soon as the child lands in the city, so that there is a reduced chance of the child being kidnapped or trafficked for sexual exploitation, organ donation, organized begging, etc. So once the street child is used to coming to the open shelter to get basic snacks, some amount of recreation, then we can convince him to maybe get admitted in a municipal government school, maybe start staying for some time, for a few days at a stretch in the institution. One thing we also need to remember is the sheer vulnerability of children in the street. They are they are vulnerable to verbal, physical, and sexual abuse. A lot of them will spend all the money, all the income that they have gotten on the same day because they don't have any place to keep their savings in, no bank or any other form of safekeeping for their money. The police is likely to take the money from them and shoo them away after giving them a beating. So it's their survival is quite precarious as it is in most developing countries. So NGOs take a more gradual approach towards institutionalization, and they are a lot more flexible in terms of allowing movement inside and outside the shelter as well as institution. For example, in a government-run institution, the uh, child attends only school inside the institution, whereas NGO-run institutions will let the child go to a school outside the four walls. So that is something, that sense of freedom which street children have, because they live on their own mostly and earn their own money. When that gets compromised in an institution which does not give quality services, like state-run institutions, that puts the children off from the very idea of going back to their families or staying in an institution till they are 18 years old. Hence, NGOs receive a lot of children, but they are unable to hold on to a lot of them because of budgetary and logistical limitations. Can we have the next slide, please? Some of the experiences that we had are telling. For example, there was a child who was given up in standard second to a government institution, and the mother was not in touch with the child for 8 years. And in India, the biggest exam that a child faces in high school is the 10th standard exam. So, and suddenly a few weeks before the exam, she said that she showed up after 8 years and said, I want to meet my son. A government organization would have immediately allowed her, but the NGO run institution was sensitive. They said that you have not had any contact with your son. He is at an important stage in his life. If he gets emotionally disturbed now, then there is no undoing the damage that happens to his academic future. So wait till until after the exams are over, then we will ask him if he wants to meet you. And if he says yes, then only you can meet him. Sadly, the child refused, but it is an interesting thing to see how institutions, whether they are government or NGO run, they become a sort of a place to dump your child if you are unable to take care of him financially, psychologically, or otherwise, because their parents are reassured that if they keep the child in an institution, somehow the child will get at least the basics of food and clothing. And after at least till the age of 18, after 18, he is anyway not our responsibility. So there was another experience where a woman, because Mumbai has torrential rains, she said, take my children, but give them back after the rainy season. She wanted them to be safe because during the 2-3 months of the rainy season, because there was no way for her to keep them dry on the street. So what we have realized is there are a lot, and I mean a lot of children who are in vulnerable situations, but we need to weed out the people who will be able to, with some help, take care of their kids on their own, and only those who would not survive otherwise are usually taken into institutions. For example, children with HIV/AIDS, children who have a single parent who is unable to take care of them, children who are orphans, children who would not have a chance anywhere else. So, can we have the next slide, please? So what NGOs usually do is they don't usually pick up children at places where they congregate. For example, like near a railway station or near a traffic crossing, they will first encourage them to come to open shelter by doing outreach activities like distributing snacks or having small recreational programs in focal points like train stations where they're likely to uh, land up in the city and also get to know other people, other children like that. Second, before we take any child into an institution, we do a home visit, and not just one, we do a few just to see how accurate the child's, what do you say? How accurately has the child painted his or her reality? How suitable are the parents? With some support, will they be able to take care of the child, or does the child need institutionalization because the parents are unfit? 2 or 3 visits later, the report is submitted to the Child Welfare Committee, and we request the committee to let us take the child in custody till the age of 18 or as required. Sometimes it happens that the parents are currently poor, but they want to send the child to an institution. So then the institutions insist that we will take your child in, but at the same time, you need to compulsorily save, let's say, 5,000 rupees a month and show us the savings in terms of your bank passbook so that we know in the future, once the child crosses 18, you are fit to take him back. And we have to remember that in India, 18 is the magic number. The government seems to think that all handholding should stop at the age of 18, and after that you are on your own, without acknowledging the fact that children who are on the street, because they have such limited contact with their families, they have absolutely no social support for them, which will help them, say, get admission in a college, or which will help them get admission to a hospital when they are ill. So you can't just take care of children till they're 18 and then let them lose. Another thing that we do in institutions, in private institutions in India, is we help children get an education that is to their liking, supplemented by vocational training and job placement. And we also help them form groups after they reach 18, and then maybe purchase homes together or rent homes together, because we also need to remember that there is very few children have the required government IDs when they come to the institution. So those also have to be created and linked to their bank accounts, phones, etc. In addition to children, the people you will also see on the street are men and women, of course. There are also beggars, and there are also persons with disability. All of them form different communities on their own, and they have their own communication and support networks. What also happens is, people who are homeless, people who are selling something on the street, people who are dancing or singing on the street for money, buskers, these people often get marginalized because the police is very insensitive to them. They don't understand that homelessness is not a crime. Nobody is on the street out of choice. So what usually happens is, whether it's children on the street or adults on the street, whether they're economically productive or not, the police takes a very negative view of them. Because, and also another thing is, government institutions are very, very poorly maintained. So if you tell a child that I want to take you to the government institution so you can study, the child, if he has been to a government institution before, will outright refuse. He's like, nothing is, worse than a government institution. I'd rather stay here on the street and take my chances. So, of course, private organizations are a little better. They are monitored by the government. But there are also a lot of laws in India. First, primarily, is the Juvenile Justice Act. We have laws that guarantee compulsory and free education to children till 14 years of age. We have laws prohibiting child labor, child marriage, child trafficking, etc. But the government does not seem to show any political will to take strict action against perpetrators, causing these, against the push factors towards these social problems. For example, in Mumbai, a lot of people come to work. So very little is being done to alleviate rural poverty, which is causing migration to urban areas, and therefore parents who spend a maximum amount of time working and therefore have children who are unsupervised, who are the likely population to become street children. So, acts like laws like compulsory education will not work if you work with children in isolation. You need to work on strengthening their basic social unit, which is the family, whether it is financial support, whether it's support related to housing, substance abuse, school admissions, healthcare, all of these combined would be a lot more useful rather than creating laws on specific groups of children. That's all. Thank you.